Welcome to Lime Crime Online. It rhymes. This is me, Mark Edwards, and do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Ed James.
Ed James. I write psychological thrillers. Ed writes, what do you call them? Crimey books.
Crimey books, police procedural set in
Yeah.
Scotland, England, and also thrillers set in America. Hence what we're going to talk about.
It is, yes. So today we're going to be talking about researching books when they're set in other countries, specifically for the purposes of this chat, America. My latest book, The House Guest, is set in New York, and Ed's last two books were set in Seattle. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And so we actually went on a research trip together last year.
Yeah.
I also did a separate trip to New York, and so we're going to show you our pictures, our holiday snaps. Though it definitely wasn't a holiday; it was a research trip. And
for tax purposes, if anyone from HMRC is, we exhausted ourselves on research, as you'll find as we go through it.
Yeah,
it was it might look like a holiday at certain points, but it was absolutely grueling. And I think my step counter hit like 35,000 on one day.
Oh my God. he was making me do like 20,000 steps a day, and my knees hurt so much.
Yeah, one thing you don't appreciate about Seattle, particularly if you look at it on Google Maps, is how hilly it is. Because when you go to London, you go to Notting Hill, it's like, where's the hill? And it's just this tiny little lump or something.
Yeah.
So when you go to Seattle and Capitol Hill, it's a massive hill, and it's a huge climb up from the downtown area by the water. So yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through our trips, and as we go along, we'll kind of talk about the specifics of research and how it affected the books that we're writing. And I've got a few questions from readers that I'll read out at the end, which we'll address. So shall we go? We're going to very briefly look at my trip to New York first and get that out of the way.
Yeah, but this was the talk we were going to be doing this weekend down by the sea in Lyme Regis. Sadly, we can't travel as much as we all may wish to, and we certainly can't sit in a crowded theatre with the pandemic going on. So our thoughts go out to everyone who's lost someone as part of this. It's horrific, and also the effects everyone else has had. You know, hopefully everyone's keeping themselves moderately sane. I know I've gone slightly bonkers, and Mark, you look like you've escaped from an insane.
I know. I had a lovely head of hair at the start of lockdown, and it's all gone.
Yeah.
Yes, but hopefully we'll be doing this live next year in Lyme, and it'll be a bit slicker when we do it live.
I don't think there'll be any less. I'd like to point out this is the second take we've done, and we made a right royal mess of the first one. So hopefully
we'll be like Anton Deck by next year. We'll have our patter and our double act sorted out.
Yeah, I think only one of us will have had a coke-induced breakdown by then. So anyway, without further ado, we'll start in Brooklyn, where Mark did a lot of research for The House Guest.
That's right, and I went there in the summer of 2018 with my family. It was about 35 degrees. We rented an Airbnb, so you can see here I am standing by the jukebox inside this Airbnb, which used to be owned by a record producer. And it hadn't been redecorated since the 70s by the looks of it.
Yeah.
It's this really cool retro place in Williamsburg, right near the metro station.
This is actually the apartment you were staying in?
Yeah. And that's where the book's set. So The House Guest is set in this house. The jukebox is in the book. This is the actual jukebox. In the book, the characters dance around to an Eagles song.
Shame.
Playing on this jukebox.
Yeah, no, so it's quite good when you can put in the sort of, you know, obviously the sort of the old adage of write what you know, but like know what you write. as well is important, because being able to sort of cast yourself back to that sort of particular room, and you can see the photograph is only part of it. You can remember the sort of other details, like what's behind I presume it's Sarah taking the photo. You can, and what you can.
I mean, usually when I'm writing, I've got an imaginary house or apartment or whatever in my head, but in this one, it was very specifically, okay, this is where it's set. I can see all the rooms, I can see the garden, I can see the view out of the window, and it actually really helped. I guess it made it feel more like a clear movie in my head while I was writing it.
Yeah. So do you always write in imaginary sort of houses, or do you ever use your own home? And have you ever used particularly like fictional towns?
They're set in kind of an amalgam of various places where I've lived or visited. I mean, the Magpies was definitely set in a flat that I used to live in, the one where we actually had the nightmare neighbours. So I very much pictured that setting for the book.
That's definitely writing what you know.
Oh yeah. Is the next picture meant to appear at any second?
I will do it. Yeah,
here we go. So this is my family. I dragged them around New York with me in the heat.
Yeah.
That's oh my god, my mind's gone blank. Exactly where that is.
Well, it's the Flatiron, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a little park kind of just over the road. Where we kind of hung out and cooled down. I think there was a Wagamama here, and we went to the area. My daughter is obsessed with Wagamama, and there's only one in New York. So after several days of her complaining that there was nothing to eat in New York, like the most foodie city in the world, we took her to Wagamama. So she was happy. Apart from that, we went to about 50 branches of Starbucks.
Oh god! Well, that'll be covered later. And then that's the exterior of the apartment then.
Yeah, that's the actual house. I mean, it's easily worth $1 million. This house, even though it's quite ramshackle, not particularly big. But the fact that it's in the heart of Williamsburg and it had a garden. I mean, if you kind of could turn the camera around and look down the road, you'd see the metro station is like right there.
Yeah.
And Dunkin' Donuts and a Froyo, a frozen yogurt place opposite, and a really cool clothing store, and just hipsters everywhere. So it was really
like being in Shoreditch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the American Shoreditch. There's even a Hoxton Hotel has just opened there.
Yeah.
And it was just, it really, really helped with the book. And when we did our trip, because I was kind of thinking about my next book and a project that I am planning to write in the future, it showed me that looking on Google Maps and Google Earth, although that can kind of give you a sense of where you're going and the locations, I was actually getting a lot wrong just from doing that, and actually going there was really helpful.
Yeah.
So do you want to move on to our trip?
Well, do you want to explain this?
Oh my god, yeah, that was Williamsburg. Yeah, that was on. I mean, yeah, there you go. The Me Too movement encapsulated in a Picasso pastiche. Is it Picasso? I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, there's a fair few people in the added to that now, probably. But yeah, it's a time and a place. That one.
Oh my
anyway.
god, no.
So let's move on to our trip to the Pacific Northwest. So the first like London, can you wait? So this is us flying out from Heathrow. We've met up. I flew down from Edinburgh, and you got the train down from Wolverhampton.
That's right.
We met up. Yeah, and this is the hotel we were staying at. Looked in across the airport, and at night, and it was quite a sort of an experience being up there, and very easy to get lost in that hotel. It's absolutely gargantuan. And then taking off. Well, right, and that is the champagne, but it's not my champagne. So I let you drink the champagne. I was trying to get some sleep on the plane, and I didn't.
I know. Ed had decided that he wasn't going to have a drink on the plane. He wasn't going to eat until the time zone that we were heading till.
Yeah.
And all these like clever things to beat,
I know
to
this.
beat jet lag. Whereas I was just like, give me the champagne. We
Yeah.
were in business. I mean, we were in business class. I have to admit that because we're worth it, obviously.
Yeah, because it was a business trip. Yes, it was. I mean, those seats, it doesn't look that big, but you get the proper kip on that. Whereas, and I even managed on the flight home, which was overnight. I managed to get a sneak a chainsaw on board, as you probably reckon, because I was sleeping so soundly that it was snoring away. The I mean that it flipped out, and I think I got like most of an outline done on the flight over, so it was like I think it was about 9 hours to Seattle from Heathrow to Seattle, and I got like most of an outline done, which was
I know.
I always get like huge amounts of work done on trains, probably because when I used to work down in London and commute back up from Edinburgh, I used to like just that was the best time because I could just sit and just headphones on, just lock myself out and just get on with it, and it was great, great fun. But yeah, that was us taking off. And then Frances Farmer will have her revenge in Seattle, which is a song by which band?
Is that a
Yeah,
Nirvana reference?
yeah, it's on in utero. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there we go. That's her revenge.
I mean, this has turned into us laughing at ourselves, laughing at our own jokes. But yeah, we were kidding ourselves out because it was a bit cold in Seattle, wasn't it? It was actually it was freezing, absolutely freezing.
It was perfect. It was about 18 degrees. It's probably my natural temperature. Anything above that, and I hate it. Yeah.
I was.
Yeah. So it's one of my friends I used to work with, Kim Tang. She lives over in Seattle, and she took us for a sort of nice evening round. So it's showing some of the sort of locations and some of the neighbourhoods around the town. So this is us in it was like a sort of what was the place called? It was Ballard, which is where Max Carter, the star of my Seattle books, is where he actually lives, I've decided. So it was quite a sort of, it wasn't too hipster, but it was quite fancy. There's lots of sort of shops like this. And it was an amazing,
really good vegan ice cream.
Yeah, that was not as a card carrying vegan, but it was incredible ice cream, and you could not tell the difference. That was quite something, that place. So here we are now, entertain us. So
there's a lot of Nirvana references.
Yeah. So
we went and played bingo. This is our first night in Capitol Hill, which is where we stayed.
Yeah.
And I think we were just trying to get a. You're wearing the same T-shirt. We were trying to. He does own more than one T-shirt, I think.
Yeah.
We were trying.
I just want 20 copies of this one.
Yeah. We were trying to get a taste of what it's like to live around there, weren't we?
Yeah, and obviously this photo, you can tell by our eyes that's 30 hours of travel or something. This is us trying to sort of switch to the time zone, because this was about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and we'd been up since 6 o'clock in UK time, so this is a hell of a lot of time later. But yeah, this is the first time we got there was a few shots later, but we went for a walk to downtown Seattle, and this was us just going to sort of a bar in Capitol Hill for some food.
We went to search for the Space Needle, but it was like
looking for a needle.
You've messed it
up. I can't
up.
Remember. I know.
It was like looking for some needle in a haystack.
Yeah, I know. The number of times you made that joke and you just kept laughing. It's still rubbish, Mark. It's still rubbish. Yes. Yeah. We did, but it was actually very funny because we were wandering around Seattle, which anytime you see a photo of the skyline, it's always focused on the Space Needle. And now Amazon have built so many towers just away from it that you can't see it from anywhere else. So you have to get really quite close to it. Yeah. So that was us playing bingo, and it was left quite quickly after that. But the beer in that pub was very, very nice, I remember. And this is one of your shots from
so Amazon have got this biosphere outside their offices. Amazon have got loads of buildings in Seattle, and I'm published by Amazon, Thompson Mercer. So I went to visit the office and meet the team there, and they took me for a little tour of the biosphere. It's really cool. It's all, I mean, it's all like trees and like a little rainforest inside.
It looks
really
like the what's it called?
the
In
Eden
Cornwall, Eden Project. Yeah, like a
yeah,
nice
just
small
like that.
Yeah,
But the Amazon staff are allowed to kind of go and wander around and chill out. Okay, so this is, you've got some of your book here, haven't you?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the things. So we're walking around. This is the Pike Place Market, which is sort of one of the famous bits of Seattle. You can see the Pike Place Bakery in there, and it's like, I think it's about 4 or 5 floors. So downstairs is all like bookshops and stuff. But it was, I mean, it was an amazing place to get lost in. So there's like fish markets and stuff upstairs, and to the right they were selling like flowers and bread and God knows what else, like homemade soap and all that sort of stuff. It's all very crafty, and there's bookshops and comic shops and thrift stores and all that.
Were you saying that there was didn't you have a chase scene or something?
Yeah, so the opening of Gone in Seconds, well, the first Max Carter scene is a chase scene in that very place. So the courthouse is just behind it. And if we were walking through that, you said this would be a great place for a chase scene. It's like, well, that's right. So I put that in as an actual detail, and I think there's like, you can see all the fish being stacked there. But I think we went back there again the next day earlier, or there's just this is in the afternoon, I think, isn't it? No, I can't tell analog clocks. That's 3 minutes, 8:15. So this is actually the day. But along to the right at the other fish thing, there's huge ice buckets for the fish. So they obviously just got it in from the trawlers straight in here, and that was great for like a sort of an obstacle for the villain to get away. So yeah, it was good being in the city and seeing sort of iconic landmarks, being able to put them in the novels. Definitely.
Yeah, and you
definitely worth them.
Oh yeah, and you get ideas, don't you, for locations, and just I find that if I'm just sitting in my office all the time, I've kind of struggled during this lockdown period because I haven't been going anywhere. I haven't had anything to kind of get my creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
Just being in the house like all the time, or doing the same dog walk every day. I find that if just going to walk around a museum or go somewhere new or go and meet people, just a change of scenery is really good for your imagination and creativity. And I think that's one of the reasons why I found it really hard to write during this.
Well, I've written quite a lot during this period. It's how I cope with it, but it's very different because I've written stuff set locally, or sort of stuff in my hometown of Carnoustie set back during the British Open in 2018. So it's stuff I know really well, so I don't have to have that. And it's stuff that I've not written about before, so it's kind of fresh as well. I also have written about New York, so it's like, but when I couldn't write like the Fenchurch book, where I like to go down to London and just get lost in East London for a couple of hours, and I always find that really sort of inspiring. You just sort of you just wander around and get lost, and you find somewhere. Oh, right, that looks like a cool place to sort of investigate and sort of make a lot of notes. I know Kevin Wignall does a lot of. And his books are all set in very exotic climes like Austria and Portugal and stuff, and he actually goes and spends a lot of time in these places.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great way to see the world, isn't it? To write books set in foreign places. If I set my books in Wolverhampton, it'd be very boring. I really need to set one in the Maldives.
I want to set something in Iceland. That's my next.
Iceland, yeah. I'd love to go to Hawaii. I really want to set a book in Hawaii.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very long flight.
Yeah. I mean, it was a long flight going to Seattle, but it's like kind of like almost half again.
Yeah. We probably better move on because I was going to be here all day with our holidays.
I know. And there's a toilet. So that's from the trip we did under ancient old underground Seattle. So basically all the downtown area is like a floor up from where it used to be, and you can go around it was a couple of blocks, wasn't it? They were like underneath the city. It was basically now basements, but where the original thing, because it kept flooding. So that's quite a funny toilet. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke about that being the toilet in our Airbnb, but it would have been a rubbish. So that's the needle in the haystack.
Yeah, that is. We were too tight to go up there, two Brits abroad,
Yeah,
because
it
it was
seemed
like
very expensive for what it was.
yeah, it's about $40 to go up there and then look at across the water and at some skyscrapers very close to it.
Yeah.
But we did go to the Museum of Pop next door. That was pretty good. And there's another building. I can't remember where that was. But it's quite spooky. There's lots of sort of stuff like that all dotted around Seattle. It's quite a sort of an interesting place for the sort
Was
of
that
street
on that
art.
island that you went to?
It could be. I can't remember. I think that was in downtown Seattle. It's just on a back street. I found it. Yeah.
Well, if there's any viewers from Seattle, they'll be like going, "What the hell are they talking about?"
I know. So this is the pop museum that we went into, which is next to the States Museum. So and sort of escalation of horror. There's fantasy, then there's horror, then there's Pearl Jam.
It's like the 9 circles of hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a lot of Pearl Jam posters. Neither of us are fans. It's great. And I'm wearing that T-shirt. Okay.
I definitely look better with no hair, I think.
I look less grey with no hair, with my hair shaved off, that's sure.
But that's us pretending what to look like Pearl Jam fans, like Mason Cross. We kept thinking about Mason, didn't we, while we were there?
Yeah. If there's any Pearl Jam fans watching this, then you just have to apologise to us because they're an awful, awful band and sounds like Hootie and the Blowfish.
This is
anyway,
the downvotes on YouTube.
I know we're going to get cancelled or something. Right, yeah. And there's in Seattle Edwards on 5th. Mark Edwards on 5th. So that's like kind of the monorail in the background. So it's quite a sort of, that's over towards the Space Needle. It's quite a sort of, there's quite a different vibe around there. I think it was a bit more calm, whereas the centre can be quite busy. And there's me on James Street, looking all happy and tired.
Yes, we were. You can see all the leaves, all the autumn leaves. I mean, it really was chilly.
It was not chilly, but what I would say it was actually very like being in Scotland over there. The trees and landscapes are the same. It's just there was these massive cities and the surrounding stuff.
But I mean, the climate and things like that, they are important, aren't they, when you're writing? I mean, obviously, just spending a few days somewhere, you're not going to have the knowledge that somebody who lives in that city is going to have, but it can give you, I think, enough flavour to be able to fake it.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's just faking it. And I think one of the things I've found with this sort of stuff is that obviously I wrote about someone who lives there and it's their job to be there. But when I've written stuff set in the Craig Hunter books, the second one's set in the Algarve, and the third one's set in the Scottish Highlands. So I wrote them from the perspective of someone going there, which is one thing to consider. Because you don't have to have that local colour. You have you've got the character in the books going through the same stuff as you would when you're actually.
And I think that fish out of water thing is quite appealing because, like in The House Guest, it's about a couple who are house sitting in New York. They're British, so they feel very much out of their depth. And when the kind of scary stuff starts happening, they don't have anyone local to turn to. They don't have the knowledge and the support network and everything. So it actually makes it harder and scarier if you're in a foreign place.
Yeah.
So we must be almost onto our train trip.
This is my. So as you went to Amazon, I took a ferry journey across to Bremerton, which is over the Puget Sound from Seattle. It's a sort of small town. I don't have many photos. I took a lot, but I haven't put it in here. But that's another ferry coming back across from Bainbridge Island, which is where the bass player from Nirvana is from. But that was it was fascinating going to sort of the small town and just seeing how different it was to big Seattle. I wrote quite a few chapters set there, and it felt a whole world away. Like Seattle was literally that sort of cliche of gleaming stuff. You can sell the tech money in there, whereas it hadn't really quite got across the river, the water to Bremerton, which is there was a couple of things like craft beer bars and a hipster cinema and stuff, but nothing too much. There's a lot of very downtrodden stuff. So it's quite fascinating to write about somewhere that's very different. And this was us very early in the morning going to visit Kurt Cobain's house, which is on Lake Washington Boulevard, and a very irate-looking Moor man there looking back at us.
That's not Kurt Cobain's house.
Oh, no, you're right. That's on the way to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it was Halloween, wasn't it? So you see that there's a pirate ship, and there's a Jolly Roger flag on the top of that house.
There's a skeleton. Yeah.
And the detail that these houses had the most amazing Halloween displays.
Yeah, they really went big on it.
I just remember that we both really needed a wee at this point. And we were like, there's no public toilets anywhere, and we
were walking through like residential areas and stuff. So this was like really strange because it was like we've been spending a lot of time in sort of the city centre and stuff, and then we just went for a walk to his house like first thing. Because one of the things we both had there was just waking up at like 5 a.m. So we can tell you where every single 5 a.m. opening Starbucks is in Seattle because we went there, I think. And you know, so we got up, got coffee, and walked over there, and it was quite far. It was like a couple of miles, and then we got an Uber into town again, I think, didn't we? After this, so we've got like this is the Nirvana stuff from the museum that you see his jacket, and then this is the bench in the park outside Kurt Cobain's house. So
yeah, there's this tiny little park just by his house, but where we didn't see any Nirvana fans, did we, hanging around?
No, we didn't. It was like school time and stuff, but I used, so the house in Gone in Seconds was based on that house, and it's another rock star who lived there, and there was a load of sort of fans outside around having a vigil around that bench for a fictional rock star that isn't Kurt Cobain. Did you I think it was quite a sort of an evocative, iconic place because it was just all in, there's people, obviously it's like the music of Nirvana touched a lot of people, and then you see the effect it has on people's lives and stuff.
Oh, I know. And I thought there was only one Converse, but there's two. I imagine that all this stuff gets rotated quite regularly.
Yeah, it's nice to see that there's a cock there as well. Everywhere.
I wonder if Courtney Love ever goes and has a little sit on that bench.
Maybe it's her shoes, maybe her flowers. Who knows? Who knows?
Dave Grohl goes and says, "Thanks for kickstarting my career."
Yeah. You knew us more than the drummer. Yeah, we're definitely going to get cancelled for that. Right, so now we're going away from Seattle on a downtown train. So you got on this train.
So let me talk about the train. The train. This is the Coast Starlight train, which runs from
Vancouver.
It starts in Vancouver and goes all the way to LA. We just did the section from Seattle to
Klamath Falls.
Which is at the southern tip of Oregon. And that was, how many hours was that? Was it 12?
12, yeah. And
12 hours, yeah.
It's not that to drive, so I have no idea what the train was doing. But
it's much slower than driving.
Yeah.
But I love trains, and I have an idea for a book set on a sleeper train that goes down the west coast of America, which is in my kind of my drawer of ideas. So this was actually really useful for me because it kind of showed me basically what the inside of the train looks like, what the landscape is as you go past, the timings and everything. So that's something that I'm hoping to work on in the future. What's that view of?
I think that's, I've got the geotagging on the photos elsewhere, but I think it's there's a river at the southern tip of Washington State. Yeah, so not far from Portland. I'm just going to have a look on
Okay.
my phone and tell you where it is. But yeah, that was. I mean, as much as I love trains, that was a very long journey, and we were actually booked to go on to San Jose, weren't we?
We were, but we didn't. We changed our minds. We can talk about that in a minute. Are there
Yeah.
any more pictures of the train?
Yes, I think that's the Columbia River.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
the sightseer lounge in the train. And
yeah,
I mean, these seats were busy like all the time. It was quite hard to
yeah.
get a seat with a view of the forest and the
River and so on.
rivers. I mean, lots of forest, lots of rivers, more
Yeah.
forest, more rivers. Ed
And
basically spent the whole trip like a miserable bastard,
yeah.
sitting in our seat with his headphones on. Were you working or just or
I was
watching
I
videos or
was like in
something?
such a bad frame of mind. I was so tired
Hmm.
and so because like it was like 3 days in Seattle, isn't it? And like weren't
Yeah.
sleeping, and I was like yeah, doing a lot. Like I say, it was about 35,000 steps that first day, and
Hmm.
doing just grabbing everything. So it wasn't really like we weren't resting much. We were just sort of on the go constantly and fueled by coffee. And then I just when we got on that train, I just sort of like collapsed and hit
He
the
just, I
wall.
mean, he literally didn't move
Yeah, and I
except
was
to go to the dining car to a meal where we sat with a very strange man
a very
who
strange man.
definitely should be a character in a novel.
Yeah,
I mean,
so I was just
that's the
sitting
other.
there. I was just sitting with my headphones on for the last 3 hours, listening to a Muse playlist, practicing drums. So I was
I
like
mean,
drumming along with Muse songs.
sorry, that's the other thing I was going to say about why research trips are so useful is that you encounter lots of
Yeah,
people
and not weirdos like me, but like American weirdos and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and so there's a particular character that we'll get to in a minute that we met, a very interesting person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as much as much as the landscape and the buildings and the city, whatever the geography, meeting the people is equally as important as a part of the research trip.
Yeah.
So just like seeing the people on the train, doing some people watching, for me that was really, really useful and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, Ed doesn't like to think about the train trip because it was one of the worst days of his life.
I don't.
But
When we got to Klamath Falls and eventually found our way over to the hotel, I don't.
yeah.
I don't think I slept as well in my life. Because the next day when I got up, I felt like reborn. It's like
Mm,
finally acclimatized, and yeah,
yeah. So
this is what we saw in Oregon. This is
this,
at Walmart. We walked
yeah,
around
this is
because I wanted to get a
yeah,
Walmart.
Walmart in Klamath Falls, and we walked there. It was miles away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we also bought some prepper and gun magazines because
And the what's that Batman graphic novel, Killing Joke? So you
yeah.
must have looked like sort of proper incel type.
I know
Buying weird stuff.
I didn't have the shaven head there, so I probably didn't look quite
Nah,
like I was about to
yeah.
plan
And
shooting.
that was so I actually put quite a few, well, a scene in of Gone in Seconds in the from that what basically at Walmart, just wandering around because it's like
Mm,
the kind of it's interesting when we've looked into them since they moved into food. Obviously they own Asda, but it's like being in an Asda that's the wrong way around. So Walmart moved into food, so they were just a big shop selling stuff, and then they've introduced groceries, whereas Asda was a
yeah,
grocer's that
right.
introduced the other stuff. So
Okay.
it's like kind of like 3/4 non-food items, a quarter food. So it's like kind of the inverse of like an Asda in here, but it's very, very, very similar. And those cookies, those vegan cookies I bought, kept repeating on me.
No, let's not get into that. It was a
It's not
bit.
going to talk in there. Yeah, that became painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then this is what walking along just the side of the road. I think it might be on the way there. Was protected by locks, glocks, and a killer chihuahua.
And
That
the
was
other thing we should say is that they've recently legalized
yeah,
weed in well, California, Oregon, and Washington. I don't know exactly how recently, but everywhere you went, the smell of marijuana hung in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally everywhere. There were cannabis shops.
Yeah, there's a
Well,
weed dispensary just down the road from that, wasn't there? And I took a photo of a guy, and he said, "Oh, was it?
you
What are
take
you looking
that
at, boy?"
photo.
Yeah, that was it. You taking my photo, and it like the photo didn't actually come out, so it's like.
He was a bit. He thought you were like an undercover agent taking his photo as he
I
came out.
know. If it's legal, hey, hey,
Yeah.
man, yeah. So
I should also. Sorry, I must stress that we didn't go into any of those shops. We're too wimpy, and we don't. We just say
yeah,
no. Kids.
yeah. No, we didn't actually go in. We did
No,
go to Weed though, and here is us on the way into California, which is just over the border. So there's a sort of been a secessionist movement since like the turn of the 19th to 20th century about turning that whole area into a separate state. I think called Jefferson, where because it is quite different from California and sort of northern Oregon around Portland and stuff. So that's Mount Shasta in the distance. From Klamath Falls, you turn onto this freeway, and then you see it, and then I know that road bends, but literally after that bend, it was just a straight drive all the way over to it, and every single shot was at the start, at the cover of a Jack Reacher novel. It just needed a bloke on the front and Lee Child
no.
to talk.
So we rented a car. We should say we'd rented a car by
Yeah.
the point. Ed was driving. I have never driven abroad, and I'm too scared to drive on the side of the road. So I let him do all the driving.
Yeah, and actually, it was some of the best driving. They know what they're doing with roads over there. It was quite staggering. But that was like an incredibly boring drive because, like, if it was in Britain, you know, like the Highlands of Scotland, you see hills like that. They're really windy roads and stuff. But this was just like 60 minutes straight down this road, looking at one hill getting very, very gradually closer to you. But it was the weather was incredible. You know, it was warm there, and it was so high up as well. This is Mark Poole, obviously.
Yeah, this girl called Marilyn.
Yeah,
told me she was a big movie star. I don't know whether it's true.
Yeah, I think she's quite cold now.
I know, but yeah, this is the town of Weed, which has basically capitalized on its name by selling lots of weed-based products
and memorabilia.
Memorabilia, yeah. I got a fridge magnet.
I got a T-shirt and a camper van, and the mug thing, and the weed sticker come off. But it was weird that time because you can see how it's changed because it was like a kind of shady town where they used to grow dope illegally, and we sort of pulled up on the sort of main street, and it was all gone. So all the shops and stuff that were there, shops and bars and cafes, were all gone, and they'd moved on to the sort of the more. It wasn't like a freeway or anything, but it was like the main road. They'd all moved over there, so we went to this little proper American diner with like a salad bar and stuff for lunch, and you know everything had moved onto that road. It was very strange how they commercialized it, and this was like the end of a row of shops.
It was really useful as well to kind of spend some time in one of these kind of backwoods towns with a small population, and kind of we went to the Dollar General, didn't we? And
yeah, they bought like a couple of a blanket to cover over our stuff in the back of the car so it didn't get burgled.
Not that we were paranoid.
No.
Yeah, we needed a blanket to hide the guns and the drugs and the hostage in the back of the car.
The dead hostage. Yeah. So this is when we went to Mount Shasta. We just arrived, parked, and there was a parade of school kids going through. Kids. I think it was to celebrate Mark's arrival more than anything.
I think it was. I know. I think that. So the interesting thing about Mount Shasta is that it's the most hippie place in the world, and literally every other shop is a crystal shop.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. It was insane. You walk down the street and it's just like crystals. Then some kind of shop selling quite mystical
bookshops with ancient archaeology or ancient alien stuff.
Yeah, because apparently aliens have landed on Mount Shasta, and
yeah,
but
I can imagine.
it was a really nice little town. But honestly, my wife, because she's really into yoga and crystal and all that kind of stuff, she would absolutely love it there.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and,
the thing is that you can tell it's like California weather, though, even though it's like right at the north of the state. But that was probably about the 10th of October, and you see how bright it is. I don't think it gets as bright here in the middle of summer. It's quite something. And then that night we drove down to Reading, which is a further. There wasn't really much there, was it? We went for a nice Mexican meal. Went to this hipster.
well, I think Reading was really affected by the wildfires, which is another thing that I was interested in, because that if you're saying a book in California at the moment, or saying anything, you've got to take account of the wildfires. And while we were there were wildfires further south around San Jose and LA.
Yeah, so that the next day we were supposed to get the train down to
San Jose.
It was a night train down to San Jose, wasn't it? So, and I was just not on a physical. Could not get on that train again. So I kind of had a wee stop, and we were looking at the options. So we've had a hire car, so we can extend that and drive down to San Jose, where we had a hotel room booked, or we could drive up to Portland. And Mark had, was it a sexy tingle?
You know, when you get an exciting idea, it gives you a bit of a tingle.
Yeah, so Mark
I went along with this change of plan, even though I was quite keen to see what the sleeper compartment was like in the train, because they wouldn't actually let you go and look at them unless you were into one. But anyway, so we took. So, and then the really exciting part of the trip happened.
Yeah, you can only.
Do you want to explain what happened, or shall I?
Yeah. So we had a hire car, like you say, and as British drivers of big cars, you make an assumption, I think, that a big car is not fueled by petrol, but is fueled by diesel. So you put diesel into that car, and then you drive along the I-5, and it goes clack, 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 and it's like, we don't need to stop. And
I said to you, "Are you sure this is diesel?" And then I found the manual in the glove box, and then I googled it as well. I was like, "These cars only come in gasoline, as they call it."
Yeah.
And we just about managed to pull into a gas station
in Wairika.
I mean, it almost conked out. We were crossing like the freeway, and the car was going like grinding to a halt.
Yeah.
And there we were, and here came Bruce's tow truck.
So, if you were with Sarah or I was with Karen on this trip, it would have been. I definitely would not have heard the end of it. And I suspect it's probably a similar thing to you. But because we were writers, I think this is your sort of highlight of the whole trip.
It was.
So we were in Wairika, which is I think just over the state line into Oregon, and it's in California. It says there. So we had to go So I was on the phone. It took us about an hour and a half or 2 hours. So we're sitting camped out in a Starbucks. So we had all this plan. We're going to stop at all these towns on the way up to Portland and like Eugene and maybe Wairika and a few other places, and just go and have a look at them. But then we were sitting in a Starbucks and basically just off the interstate, waiting for the tow truck to turn up. He came along, and we'd actually arranged a pickup from Medford Airport, which I think is in Oregon. Or no, it's not. It's just it's at the northern tip of California, or the southern tip of Oregon. So we had to get towed up there.
And Bruce, so the guy towing the truck, I don't know whether it was Bruce himself, probably not, but it was the driver was listening to an audiobook.
Yeah.
So we had like an hour journey up to the airport.
It was about that, yeah.
And he's listening to an audiobook, which is quite a famous book called, oh my God, what's it called? 2 minutes
one
after,
one day later or something. Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, it's about there's been an EMP strike, and America's, all the electrics are being wiped out, and you've got these kind of gangs of survivors, but it's basically seen as the ultimate novel for preppers and survivalists. And he was listening to it at ear-splitting volume. And there was an amusing moment where he spotted a bumper sticker on the car in front that said "License to Hunt ISIS."
Yeah.
And he said he wanted to get one of those.
You can see the cabin there. It's like I was sitting in the passenger side, and you were like absolutely crammed in the back, and it was so loud, and I could actually hear. It was loud, but it wasn't like really loud. But you can hear for like 2 or 3 hours after that.
I get set my tinnitus off.
Yeah,
so loud.
I had a so as we drove up. This is like on the sort of on the drive up, and I actually started chatting to him, and he was I think he grew up in South Central LA and saw a lot of like deaths and stuff. So he moved up to rural California to work as a tow truck driver. So it was like, it's quite a fascinating story about the guy.
Yeah. I mean, he was one of the characters. I mean, he was the main, I mean, the number of books that you could put him in, because I find the whole prepper thing really interesting, and people who are convinced that the government's going to turn on them and they have to have loads. You can imagine he's got loads of guns at home I mean, during the pandemic, he would have been fine. He wouldn't have been panic shopping because he's probably already got a cellar full of toilet paper, not baked beans, but whatever the American equivalent is.
He'll be laughing at all us libs going into panic buy because he's got all his stuff bought and ready in his.
I'm probably thinking that. I mean, obviously, I don't want to cast aspersions on this guy because he was actually really nice and really friendly, and did his job well, and kind of wished us good luck with our travels. But well, actually, that is interesting because you can have this. I'm kind of reeling off this stereotypical idea of what a prepper's like, but actually, when you go and meet people, that's what makes it much more interesting. You see, they're not these kind of cartoon characters that you might imagine.
Yeah, well, that's why I decided to mention his upbringing in South Central and stuff. It gives you sort of a clearer motivation as to why these people, turn into that way. So if you see your friends dying every like 3 months in drive-by shootings and stuff, it's going to change your worldview than if you grew up in leafy suburbs or something. So it's, you can tell the guy had. I think he might have served as well. So, like, going from that to then, like, being abroad in Afghanistan, I think it was you said, I can't even imagine what that life must have been like. And,
I know.
You can sort of have a sort of an intellectual academic sort of antipathy towards the particular worldview, but actually, when you start to understand why people are that way, it sort of gives a bit more empathy to why their plight is. But then, shooting ISIS and stuff is this like sharp mind? Is it a lot more narrow-minded?
Not that we like ISIS.
Not that we like that. No, but this is the kind of court of law. Yeah, we kind of court of law if they're a terrorist, this kind of thing. So anyway, swiftly moving on. So once we went up to Medford, we had pretty much the worst food I've ever had. It was the sloppiest, greasiest, horrible Reuben sandwich. It was like it had been deep fried and shallow fried and everything fried, and it was absolutely rank. And then Mark got to rock out in our second car.
We had a road rage incident on that drive as well, where basically this guy kind of swerved around us, and I think I don't know whether you didn't brake in time or slow down.
No, the thing was, I can't remember. I don't know why he got so angry with us, because I was driving. Maybe it was because I was driving.
Well, except he stuck his fingers up at you, and you did it back. Yeah, and that's what got him really angry. And that's when he started like swerving all around us, and like he was like hanging on to his steering wheel and like turning around and looking back at us like
grinning.
Fuck you up.
And his wife was
we had to pull off, didn't we?
Yeah. So I waited. It was classic spy thriller sort of thing. I had to wait, and then shoot into the turning, and we just got out of got the fuck out of Dodge, as they say, and into the services.
I had this image of him like calling his friend at the, you know, like in Pulp Fiction, where that guy kind of says, "I got a couple of, I got to come over, Jed, come over. I've got a couple of guys sort of in the."
Yeah.
I had images of something like that happening.
Yeah. No,
But it was fine. And then we went to Portland, and I literally kissed the ground when we got to Portland because it had been like the most romantic journey of my life.
This is pretty much where we parked the hire car and dumped it, and I got a letter to the post several months later saying, "You've got a parking fine." It's like the place was
really?
shut. I thought,
I didn't know that.
I told you about it, didn't I? They were trying to sort of do me for it. Yeah, I can't remember if I paid it or not. I might not be able to hire an enterprise car in America again, or certainly in that state. But yeah, it was Portland is quite a change to where we'd just been. And then there's the iconic concert hall where they were, you know, going from like almost getting rammed off the road by a redneck in an old Ford pickup truck to somewhere playing Stravinsky's Firebird is quite something. But that beer could not have tasted any better after that.
Oh my god, that was a well-deserved. That was a well-deserved beer.
Yeah.
And when we went for food.
Yeah.
And then we went to Powell's Books, didn't we? Is that the next slide? I know.
There is. Yeah. Powell's Books. Yeah.
Which is the greatest bookshop in the world. I mean, it is a supermarket. It's like a Walmart, twice the size of Walmart.
Yeah, that photo does not do it justice because it
takes up a whole block, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the whole block, and while it is like mostly like 3 stories high, it's just huge. It's like when you used to go into big Borders books and stuff like that. It's like, imagine the biggest Borders you've ever been in, like double or triple it. It's probably about 3 or 4 times the size of Foyles in London. It's just huge, and it's like a mix of, like say, used and new books. I got some amazing stuff in there.
Yeah.
But going in there at like 9:30 when you've had 4 or 5 pints,
a few beers.
Yeah. It's not good. And
I spent hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. And I got to the point where I think the next day when you got in there for your 3rd or 4th time, I got really just like, no, fuck it. So we went up for a walk to the Japanese garden, and there's some ruffian photobombing your photo, and then someone else photobombing my photobombing.
Oh, no.
I've got a Powell's bag under my arm there, but that was quite good. It was quite a long walk up there, but and we got there's like a sort of train line thing back from that. So that was quite cool because it's just sort of right up in the wilds down into deep into the city. So
Portland is a really lovely place. It's so I mean, it is so hipster, isn't it? So liberal and just full of like amazing coffee places and micro breweries, and honestly it's a great city. I love it. I really want to go back. I mean, and it's got the best bookshop in the world. I think if I lived anywhere in America, I think that would probably be my number one choice.
Yeah, it was cool. It was the next, so we were there for about 24 hours, and it was longer than that. It was
I think 2 days.
Yeah, so 2 nights, and the next day we went for coffee over the river, and then you went back to the hotel to do whatever you were doing, and I went for a further walk around, and it got quite rough, and there's a hell of a lot of homeless people around and stuff, and it's like, you know, really sort of tragic lives and stuff, and you know, it's quite a sort of it's like a kind of fairy tale land, because it's you know, it's very pristine. It's quite new, but it's built in a classical way, so it looks like there's a lot of based on like iconic buildings in New York and Boston and Washington and stuff. But it's got these big trees and stuff. But then you see this abject poverty around the kind of by the river and stuff, and it's like sort of 3 or 4 blocks full of like tent city and stuff. It's absolutely tragic.
So I think we're probably already over our time limit on this chat. We're half an hour. It must be. I don't know how long we've been.
This is our second. We're just on the way home. This is stop off at LAX. So we've got a flight from Portland to LAX, sat in the business lounge there for this long that it was from that to that. And we were I did a load of development editing in that lounge, and for Senseless.
We were there all day, weren't we, in LA?
Yeah, we could have got a taxi around.
My computer broke.
Oh God, yeah.
Going through the scanner, the X-ray machine.
Yeah.
And then we finally, and you left your Kindle on the plane, didn't you?
I know. And this is like the last shot is arriving back at Heathrow. And that's like a mistaken shot, but that's like, that kind of just summed up how I felt at that moment. I had to wait another 3 or 4 hours in the lounge to get a flight back to Edinburgh, and then get a taxi home from there. So that was, quite some experience. It was like, was that 10 days you were away?
Yeah. I've got a couple of readers' questions, which I'm going to read out. Okay, so May Parker said, if say a state in the USA was the setting for a story, would you contact the head of that police department for information on procedure, etc.? Now, you did something with the FBI, didn't you?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. So for those books, I got the first one, Tell Me Lies, that was read by an FBI agent. So the FBI have a department that just does media relations. So if you're writing a book featuring the FBI, you can get them to review it for accuracy, and they'll give you a load of helpful links. It's a really good service, and I think there's like 5 full-time agents doing that, because obviously it seems like frivolous, but actually, culture is so informed by TV and film that if you're in a situation where, one of the big crimes that I cover in my books is about child abduction. If you capture that accurately, then if you're in a situation where you or someone you know is in that, then it's a horrendous situation, but you kind of know what to do. That it's not called. It's like you're prepared for what's going to happen a bit more, and people aren't making false assumptions about what the FBI actually do. So yeah, and the other side of it is I've got a friend called James Mackay, who's he probably calls himself Mackie, who's a Canadian police officer. So he's worked cross-border quite a lot with the FBI, and he's helped me quite a lot with the procedural stuff there. But,
my books don't really involve the police that much, so I haven't had to contact any.
Yeah.
And I'll just make it up. But they are involved.
But one thing to be aware of is if you're writing it set in America, is the sort of the difference between the FBI and state police and city and county police as well. So have a look.
I know, and you've got like the sheriff's department, and it's really confusing, because where I was, I did have some police in my New York book, The House Guest. But even the thing, even like the name, what they call the buildings and the procedure and everything. To be honest, a lot of it came from watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and things like that. So if Brooklyn Nine-Nine is wrong, then so is my book. Right, next question. Alison Valentine, which country would you like a future book set in that you haven't already visited? So I think, America is the country that I'm interested in, really. I'd like to go to Hawaii and a lot of the states that I haven't seen.
Well, I think that's the thing. Because we got, just it was a whistle stop tour across 3 states there. 3 big states. But, the difference you see between Seattle and down to Northern California and then LA is sort of staggering. Yeah. But it is like, it's one country, but it's really, 50 countries plus DC and Puerto Rico and stuff like that. So it's very diverse, and you can write, you write a different story if it's set in Boston or
the West or whatever. I'd like to
the Deep South. Yeah.
Texas would be interesting, although I don't know anything much vegetarian or vegan food in Texas. I imagine not that much, but maybe I'm stereotyping again. Okay. So Lana Turner, do you feel the necessity to go to every place you write about, or do you research some of them through like online and books? So I think we talked a little bit about this earlier. So yeah, I've written a book partly set in Romania, and I've never been to Romania. I just did it all online. And you've
So
done that as well, didn't you?
yeah, so but when I wrote Tell Me Lies, I hadn't been to Seattle, and then the second one, Gone in Seconds, is a lot more sort of sense of place. I think I appreciate the city for what it is, rather than just a set of maps and so on. And so I definitely recommend, if you can afford to do it, to do it. And I've written, and the one I've just finished, Hell's Kitchen, is set partly in New York, and I haven't been there apart from in the airport. But it's one of those things where you feel like you can write enough about it. If there hadn't been this pandemic going on, I would have visited and spent a lot of time there.
I should say as well, I'm writing a book set in Maine at the moment, but I've never been to Maine. I've read a lot of Stephen King books. And I mean, but it's set in a campsite in the woods in Maine, and it literally could be any woods. Yeah. So because you have to kind of take account of the way that people talk, and that maybe that's kind of the hardest bit, is the dialogue, is getting the words that people would use and expressions, and trying to make it sound natural to local people. That's quite challenging.
Yeah, if you don't have to bluff it enough, yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice. I would really like to be able to go there, but I'm not going to be able to before I finish this book. So that's another way that the pandemic's kind of affected this.
Yeah.
The writing. Right, final question sorry, I've got two. Sarah Swan says, how do you decide the country or place where each book is set? Sorry, my dog is snoring. I don't know if you can hear it. She's woken up now. Hi, Rebs.
I wondered what that was.
Is it just random? Why did you choose Seattle?
I chose it because it's kind of it's a fascinating city. Obviously, I was a big fan of Nirvana and Soundgarden, but not Pearl Jam. And also worked with Kim, who lives over there, and it felt like kind of it's a sort of high tech, bustling, growing city. So it's got a very different. You write a very different story set in Seattle than you would in Chicago or New York or LA or Boston or Austin or whatever, any of the big cities, because it's got that sort of growing development thing. It was just sort of felt quite a sort of cool place to write about. And it's also the climate's quite Scottish, so that you can easily imagine the pissing rain and cold weather and stuff. So that was quite interesting. But usually from my idea, because I've written stuff set in various places now, and usually, I mean, forming the ideas, you'll sort of home in on something. It's like, I'm going to just set this one, set there. And it's not like you sort of start off, when you start, the location gets entwined with what's going on there and stuff. So the Hunter book is set in the Algarve, features it's like about sex crimes and stuff. So it kind of, there's a lot of the sort of date rape of holiday makers and stuff going on there, that sort of influenced that crime and made me want to write about that and cover that. Yeah. So I always feel it's not you just, I don't feel like I'm picking an arbitrary just location. It's like the location, what I found from writing books set in, say, Dundee and Edinburgh and London and Seattle, is each place has its own character and it's very different. And there's different stuff you can write about and should write about in each of these places. Yeah.
And I set House Guest in New York because the main female character is an actress, and I needed her to either be, it could have been LA, so she either needed to be doing something on Broadway or to be making a film or TV show or something. But New York just came into my head the moment I had the idea for the book. Mm-hmm. Right, last question. And I think we might have answered these already, but Ashley Vent, sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. What are some of the most important questions that you try to answer for yourself when researching a new book? And I think that we've covered all of that, haven't we? So we talked about the importance of the location and the characters, and sometimes there are technical things that you have to research. I was researching into cults when I was writing my recent book. I've had to research like for Here to Stay, I had to research quite a lot about science and drugs and poisons and how to dispose of bodies and stuff like that. So you have to kind of, do you ever think, oh God, the research for that will be so hard that I can't write the book? I
Yeah,
do sometimes think that.
yeah. I mean, I tend to avoid stuff where I'm going to have to do a lot of research. And some of this, I mean, I've written like a sci-fi novel about 3 or 4 times over, and it's like the research and thinking that you have to do on that is really tough, and I didn't appreciate it when I started it. But the most important thing I think is understanding the character motivations. What I was saying earlier about that pickup truck guy and his sort of prepper thing, and actually the life he's had, understanding that and what would make someone behave in a certain way. That's the important thing. And so, if you're writing something set in an odd location or an unusual location, it's making it unique to that place. So when I've written books set in Dundee, it's like I can't write about like the sort of stuff common stuff you'd write in London, because it's a very distinct place, and you have to write something that's plausibly set there, and then the motivations for that, the characters who live there, have to stack up with that, I think.
Yep. Okay, well, that's it. That's all the questions. So I mean, we have massively overrun.
Yeah.
If you're in the theatre, people would be like looking at their watches and like shuffling about in their seats and wondering when they could get to the bar.
Yeah, and poor Paddy McGrain will be sitting there stressing. It's like, oh God, come on.
So anyway, thank you everybody for watching. If you haven't encountered us before, you can find me at markedwardsauthor.com. Ed, what's your website?
It's edjames.co.uk.
Okay. And I hope you found it useful. And make sure you check out all the other Lime Crime online videos. And have a great weekend. And we'll hopefully see you in the flesh next year.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.